And we're back with the question and answer session with Griffin, Solus, and Ferrister. If you missed our discussion on what you should expect with CitizenCon Direct, it rhymes. I don't know if that does or not, but it might. It at least sounds good. It'll be above Griffin's head right there if you want to click on that. But this is our question and answer session where we take questions from the chat. We also like to call it the After Dark session, where people get a little risque with their questions. I cannot guarantee that things will not get NSFW right now, okay? So that's just what I'm saying. You're just taking a risk. So people have asked questions in the chat, both YouTube and Twitch, and I'm going to pull up their questions. We've got a handful of questions so far. Solus is going to have to dip in about 20-ish or so minutes, so we'll make sure that Solus gets a couple of these questions in, and then we'll pop out as well.
The real spicy ones. I'll take the real hard ones. Let's go.
89 Dig Dug asks, here's the real question. What is the likelihood that CIG will stay within the 2 hours?
Oh. Yeah, I mean, a lot of that stuff's going to be pre-recorded, so.
But
I'm not sure if they're going to.
They're not releasing it in a video, right? It's pre-recorded, but then they're broadcasting.
There's live stuff. That's what I'm saying. So unless it's just some ad lib type stuff that they go over a little bit, maybe. But
Come on, Griff, you've been around for a while. They're totally going to run over. They're totally going to unintentionally run over.
I don't know.
I have a feeling they're going to do the same thing they did before. And this was a problem before, which was where, remember when they did the whole sit down and talk with Chris Roberts and for like an hour plus after the show? I wouldn't be surprised if they did something like that, where they just sat down and were just like, and here's Chris Roberts and Rich Tyre to talk a little bit more about Squadron, you know?
So if they do something like that, I'd love it. But I'm just keeping my thing at 2. If they do more than 2 hours, fabulous as far as I'm concerned. Yeah. But I don't know.
So they have given the responsibility to facilitate this to the community. And so a lot of us, I think we're fine in Austin, but a lot of us have like schedules that we have to adhere to because we booked with like these agencies and booked with these like we can't go over 2 hours.
Yeah.
Like in some locations. So hopefully they recognize that and they've built it into their timetable because again, we're okay in Austin, but heaven forbid something happens at another location where they're like, we've got to shut this off. Right.
Yeah.
Like, we can't continue.
Yeah.
Honestly, based on previous CitizenCons, if it starts on time, that would be a minor miracle.
That's the real question. That is also true.
Yep.
Will there be any glitches or issues with the stream? Like that's
I heard someone on Reddit has a straight up bingo card ready to go. So as is tradition, there's always one every year. So
yeah,
dude, Paul, we need to do that at the Austin location. We need to have like on site, like a bingo card.
I will see if I can't contact the Redditor and ask them for their bingo card information.
Yep.
All right, Captain Shadowstalker asks, do the captains think there's going to be a Wikelo rework to more value our time spending the materials to get Wikelo wants?
Wikelo needs an overhaul.
Wikelo sucks. It's just like
so bad.
I don't want to have to because let's just say it takes on average 4 people to take on the to do the full loop of Stormbreaker, right? To kill the Apex Valakar.
Yeah.
In order for somebody to get even the basic ICT, you need to have basically every single resource from that Apex Valakar given to one person to get that basic D. And in order to get a F8 F7A Mark II from Wikelo, the full military one, you have to have an ICD. So plus a bunch of other things. Like the amount of materials required for Wikelo is insane. And I get they're supposed to be difficult, but an ICD requires you to take 4 hours, so it means you have to do minimum, if you want to get a full group of 4 to do it, you have to do it 4 times. It has to work 4 times, and you have to get it for 4 times, which is, at least 2 days of straight gaming to do that. And I as much as I like that thing, that sounds like my brain would melt after 2 days of just Stormbreaker.
So besides Wikelo being broken, we did the Polaris thing, turned in all the equipment, didn't get the Polaris.
Yeah.
Like, right. So like, just as one example, it also discourages group play. All right, so hear me out. So the latest like 431 Onyx facility mission, only one person can get the materials. It's that person who got the mission and shared it with everybody. Only that one person can get the materials. There needs to be a balance, because you're gonna have to run that 15 times in order to get enough materials to get the armor. Now multiply that by the 5 people that you had, like, just for the armor. So you look at this as like org play, and you're like, why would you share the mission and do this as an org if it's going to take you 50 times to get a damn set of armor for everybody?
Yeah.
Absolutely.
On top of that, none of these things are worth it. Like the ICD is not worth it. Like it just straight up isn't worth the amount of effort you put into it, because it has no value outside of it. That armor is nice, but it just doesn't have the value putting all that time and effort into it when you can effectively find the same stuff, just a different color everywhere, or buy it. Like, it doesn't have that sort of like punch to it.
So I have a slightly different take on Wikelo. I'm not best friends with Wikelo. I think as many others, we don't have the most amicable relationship. But I think Wikelo does 2 things. I think the first is, historically, the routes to getting a ship or stuff in Star Citizen was you buy it with cash or you buy it with credits. I think Wikelo offers an interesting alternative. As long as the things are available in some other way, it means that actually, if you don't want to just be like, oh, I've got to go and make some money to do something, it almost says, actually, there's a few different things I can do. I can go get my Valakar pearls or my Karanite or my MG scripts or whatever it is. I think that offers a different way to get things in game, which is a different route, which can be quite interesting. I think the second thing, and I think it was Space Tomato who originally said this to me, is Wikelo is like Tier 0 crafting. You gather materials, and although there's a Banu involved, you make something from it. So I think it is experimental. And you quite often see in the kind of the dev tracker that says we're going to be adding more stuff or changing things. And you already see it used to be like Russian roulette what you got from it, wasn't it? You'd hand in all this stuff and you'd leave disappointed. And now actually you kind of know what you're getting. So for me, I kind of see Wikelo as it's a test bed. You use it as much as you want to use it or don't want to use it. But it's probably testing some of these concepts out. And I think that will improve, but I'm giving him some leeway for that reason.
I think I don't have a problem with Wikelo as their function of that. I just have a problem with the grind it costs to do the Wikelo stuff. I feel like it just needs tuning. That's what it needs.
I agree with that, but for me, that's also a wider multi-crew problem. You know, anything that you take as a multi-crew mission, even stuff that is clearly designed to be multi-crew, you end up spreading the rewards across everybody. And I know that that's on CIG's radar, so it's probably indicative of a wider problem rather than specific to Wikelo.
I agree. I think it's highlighted in Wikelo more because of that. Because it's like, get a Polaris, and it's like one person can get a Polaris after 50 people do 20 hours to 40 hours of work individually, so. Shadowstalker asks, we already did that one. Shadowstalker asks, another question from the captains. Do you think CIG will ever give us a cat or dog in the verse that we can pet or potentially make into a pet? For example, flat cats.
Yeah, pets were part of the, what do you call it?
The stretch goals.
Stretch goals, yeah, that's something that's supposed to be coming. So this is a matter of developing that in the AI, whatever they create for them to operate. But yeah, the flat cat has been the recent thing. Dig That did a great video on the flat cat. If anybody hasn't seen it yet, take a look at it. I'm not a cat person, so I care less about a cat. But I know there are a lot of players that would love to have some type of pet, especially once they're able to have their own base and have something that's on board their ship or whatever. They would love to do that. So yeah, it is a part of the stretch goal.
What was I going to say? Not only is this part of the stretch goal, but I can tell this is a spoiler for Squadron. It is the mildest spoiler you'll ever have, but there is a dog in Squadron and you can pet it. But the first implementation of the petting the dog, it didn't have the proper pet notification. It wasn't like, when you walk up to it, it gives you the option to pet. It was eat. So they fixed that. That was a bug, but they fixed that. But I thought it was a very funny bug that I hope they talk about at some point.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, pets are not only are they a stretch goal, but I always go back to the story that pets in WoW made Blizzard more money than the entire launch of StarCraft 2.
Wow.
So
yeah,
my only hope is that it's not the annoying MMO pets where they follow you around everywhere, so you just walk around and there's just like a cat following you behind you.
Yeah.
I hope it's like a hanger thing where you can just like hang your decorations. You can have a cat that kind of
100%.
You know.
Yeah, cool. Like it got to the point in Elder Scrolls Online where you could have a pet and you could assign them a path that they would take in your home.
Yeah.
Don't give me that shit. Don't do it.
Yeah.
I don't want that complexity. I don't want it to follow me. Just
let
give me something that walks around my hanger.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For how much? For reference, how much was StarCraft 2? I don't know what the. Let me Google that real quick.
Ooh, remember that.
So apparently, it made $1 billion in revenue.
The pets did?
No.
Or
StarCraft 2 did.
So it at least did $1 billion.
At least $1 billion, if not more than $1 billion in just pets.
How stupid.
Yeah,
that's crazy. Unreal.
It doesn't do anything.
What we pay for as gamers, you know?
Yeah. And remember, the pet was like $5, I think, or something like that. You could purchase. It was super cheap and wow. So that should give people context in terms of like people like, oh well, Star Citizen is going to beat WoW. No, it's not. It's probably not even going to build Elder Scrolls Online. Like it's not that kind of game, guys. It's not replacing it. All right, next question comes from Captain Jocaro, who asks, what do those present think will return to CitizenCon Directs as a regular... what do those present think will return to CitizenCon Directs as regular and big in-person events or big changes and updates, or maybe every other... Jocaro, I don't know what you're talking about there. You're kind of run on through. I think he was asking... are we going to go back to regular Citizen Cons, or do you think we're going to actually do the big in-person events? I think we already talked about that last part. So that was the last question. So hopefully Jocaro got their answer there. And if you need that answer, go watch that video. It's above Griff's head right there. Just go click that. You go there. Or if you watch this live, you can rewind, because now apparently you can rewind on Twitch now. So
wow.
Serious Fun asks, I believe we're getting a Nick's Playground before the end of the year.
Wow.
I've nicknamed it the Nick's Neighborhood, because the reason why they call it Pyro Playground is because they love their alliteration. So maybe the Nick's Neighborhood, or
the Nick's Neighborhood.
You know. Should we expect one system a year until 1.0? More importantly, what in-game dynamics should adding systems reveal? How different should our experience feel with 3 systems versus 2, 4 versus 3, so on and so forth? Solus, what do you think?
Yeah, so much goes into a system. Now, we saw the technology since 2953 where they're able to procedurally generate or to create planets very quickly. We saw them improve their technology in that sense. So is it feasible? Absolutely. But if you want to build unique, like Nyx with its landing system, if you want to build a unique playground that has like character and it has its, nostalgic feel or whatever, it's not just procedurally generating like a No Man's Sky system. Like there's so much more that goes into it. So is it feasible? I think they have the tech to do it, but we don't want that as gamers. We do not want them to just throw up, hey, here's Nyx 1.0, you'll get Nyx 2.0 in a year. Like, no, like take your time, in my opinion, take your time, flush that out, make it a really good grand entrance like they did with Pyro. So maybe one system every 2 years, in my opinion.
I was going to say, go ahead first.
I think we're on the same lines. I would agree with that. I think one a year is probably pushing it. In my head, like the road to 1.0 was kind of like for the end of this decade. So with that in mind, you probably want to have a system soon because Pyro's been around for a while, another system in the next couple of years, another system a couple of years after that, and then once you've got them all in, you've got all of your gameplay loops, and you can say, right, here is going to be 1.0.
Yeah, I was just going to say that some of that is also contingent upon what systems.
Yeah.
The two systems that are lined up next, Nyx and Castra, are not large systems, which is good. Pyro got scaled back originally. I think it was supposed to be 14.5 AU. It got reduced down 14 AU. It got reduced down to 9.5. And CIG is going to adjust those numbers based upon as they build out what's a realistic thing, because there are some systems on the map that are over 100 AU. So if we're looking at 190, yes, if you're talking about what Stanton, which is what 3.5, Paul, something like that.
It's like 4-ish.
Or 4?
Yeah.
Yeah, so imagine a place that's 50 AU or 40 AU. These next two systems, Castra and Nyx, are not that large. Terra would be the monster, and to your point, Celis and Ferrister, that handcrafting, that's where that comes in with those. But generating something procedurally is not a big deal. They can do planets and moons within a few months, but it's what happens when you get there. And sure, there's a sandbox aspect, but this game also does have those guided things that they want us to do, the progression things they want us to do, the organic things they want us to do. And that does take time to put in. So even if they give you all the sandbox, that's great. But the first thing we'll be saying is that there's nothing to do there, right? And we saw how that just doesn't work. People want to be able to go places and find things to do. Yeah. And because Star Citizen wants to offer everything from farming to battles, that's not done overnight, as you mentioned. So it may take a year. I think that they could push those out in a year, but it's all the other stuff. Now, mind you, if their resources are shifting away from Squadron 42, that also might help to accelerate the process a little bit. But we'll have to see what happens with that too. But if all hands are on deck with the persistent universe, I think that they could do something within a year to 2 years easily without a problem.
But they have to be mindful of spreading out the content drops as well. Like, there is no sense in saying, hey, we've got Castra and Terra already, so we're going to drop them tomorrow, and then it's going to be years and years and years before we're ready to ship 1.0.
Yeah.
I think from a business perspective, it might be useful to keep some of that content in your back pocket, even if it is more or less ready, just to buy time to finish out some of the other things that need building.
Yeah.
Or
real estate's not an issue, but game mechanics and new careers and all that other stuff that comes along with it, that's the other work that they've got to do.
Or when they make a real stupid decision like master modes, and they're like, wait, hold on, let's release Terra real quick. Like,
yeah, we're not
distract.
People are asking what the size of Terra is. Terra is actually not that big, much bigger than
it's dense though.
Nyx and Terra are the
density.
Same. But Terra has a lot more content.
Yeah.
Like Nyx has the asteroid belt, 2 dead planets, and a gas giant. That's what all it has. Now, it likely is going to get a little bit more. My guess is the gas giant is going to get some moons because it's gas giant. We might get another planet here or there, but most of it's going to be asteroids because that's just sort of its theme. And to answer the question, kind of in the spirit of the question, each system has to be unique. It has to have its own theme. And it's the easiest way of seeing that is the color. As much as people hate it, Stanton is green. And the reason why Stanton is green is because it's the color of money. And Stanton is supposed to be money. Pyro is obviously red. Nyx is actually like a purple or dark, or not like a black, but like a purplish blue, because it's got a dark nebula in it. And Nyx is the goddess of sleep. So my guess is Castra would be something like a blue, and maybe a Terra would be something like a gold or something like that. But each color theming is going to be important for the aesthetics, and then each system has its own gimmick. Whereas Terra's gimmick is, it's Terra, it's the starting zone, it's the center of commerce, and whereas Castra it used to be a military base, so it's got the military aesthetics and military base structures, and probably a lot of themes around that. And Nyx has its Dark Nebula, but it's also on Vanduul space, so it has that sort of themes as well. So each of them are going to have their own themes to them. In terms of one system a year, I'm going to agree with the rest of the panel. It's like only if it makes sense within the content of what they want to drop. I don't think they're going to drop a system just because it's done. They'll drop a system when they think it's ready to go. Like, I believe, heart of hearts, Nyx has probably been ready to go for months. because they was already in late gray box when they showed off Levski at the end of last year. I wouldn't imagine it taking them that much longer to generate planets and other things. It's been mostly due to just how do you make this system fun and engaging? Where do we find the content? And then building the sort of armor sets and the locations and all that kind of stuff that takes time, taking what they already have and so on and so forth. So,
yeah. Well, fam, I have a date night with my daughter. So I'm going to take her out and show her the time. And
thank you
thanks
for
having
coming
me, guys. Thanks, everybody.
Have a good time, man. Enjoy.
And catch Solus and myself Thursday for the next Beyond the Verse. So,
absolutely. Thanks, everybody.
Later, Solus. All right. And I'm going to do is I'm going to move us to 2 guests. I'm going to change this. I already pre-prepared this a little bit. I just need to change this to register. Boom. Done.
There you go.
There we go. All right.
So professional.
Next question comes from Carlos R72, who asks, after getting in several companies reintroduced to earn reputation with, e.g. Redwind, do you think the preparation for the full guild system might be completed next year?
Ooh. They are, they've been talking about the guilds, the gang stuff. I think just recently we had notes come out about my wife's group, Twitch Pacheco and the Dead Saints now, right?
Yeah, the Dead Saints.
So you missed my joke about the wife thing. But
no, I get it. I get you.
Yeah.
I get you. It's just like Cal Mason's my husband, so I get it. I understand.
There you go, right? Yeah, I mean, it seems like they are moving. And it's interesting this question comes up because I think that sometimes the community, not everybody, because I think some of our folks are very aware, there's a lot of stuff that they presented at CitizenCon last year that they've been slowly putting into the game. It's just that they've been bringing in pieces of it here and there. Something as simple as the armors that we've gotten recently were armors that they showed last year when they started talking about the what they call it, Starware, whatever.
Yeah.
Now, mind you, the features may not be built in, but they've started implementing some of that. So I think that this gang expansion thing, after dealing with Pyro and what we saw happen there as a test bed with those original 3 gangs, I think we're going to start seeing reputation start to build out, especially if a system like Nyx comes in. I think it's important that reputation become even more important. So whether you're working for a corporation or whether you're doing stuff for a gang or some org or whatever, I think all that's going to be important. And I think we are going to start seeing more and more of that come in.
Oh, very true.
I like that question as well. I think I hadn't really considered that angle, but I think it's a valid question. To me, I think everybody would probably like to have a more fully fleshed out reputation system as soon as possible. And when I say everybody, I mean players and probably a lot of the team at CIG. The answer to the question is probably what's behind the curtain on Squadron 42 and how much more work is going to be needed. I think we started this year and said 2025 is going to be slow on Star Citizen because of Squadron. And the implication was that was going to be for 1 year. And then from 2026, it's going to be all the engine is back on Star Citizen. What we don't know is how far along is Squadron and are those people starting to be retasked? I'm hopefully going to say yes, because I think we're starting to see in some of the reports that teams are cropping up and appearing. I know Astropub, you were talking earlier about saying one of the things that you thought was slowing engineering down was UI, and as Squadron becomes more polished, potentially the UI team that was working Squadron becomes free first Star Citizen. So I hope so, but I guess time will tell.
Yeah, I think in general, with the spirit of the question, which was like, do you think that they're going to preparation? I think the answer is yes. They're in full preparation, but preparation and execution are not the same thing when it comes to CIG. I think they've been doing that for a while with not just the Dead Saints and then they bring back Redwind. I'm sure they're also doing, because we also saw in the monthly report that they're also working on trying to bring back face-to-face mission givers. I'm sure Ticia is the one, because Ticia is so important in terms of their narrative team's discussion about her and her role in Stanton as sort of being the giant foil in the room for all parties. So I imagine if they come back with it, she would probably be the primary mission giver you'd first see come back. And I think all of that is sort of indications that they are moving towards that. But it's also sort of we're catching up to what we lost with 4.0, so they're trying to finally add everything back in. So
yeah.
All right.
Yep.
Next question comes from Stakeroo, who asks, now that they have been modernizing ships and mellowing out gameplay, when do you think we'll start seeing ships getting rework gold passes? Like this year. Month report. Aurora's done.
Mm-hmm.
The Aurora completely reworked. They said it's in final art. So it's coming out
Mm-hmm.
in the next couple of months, probably. The Hammerhead, also similar. Now, do I think that's going to be a super in-depth change? With the Aurora, yes. With the Hammerhead, no. It's good for Ferrister and I, because I've started up my own review series, and I know Ferrister would love to be able to have content to go back and relook at all these old ships that have now been updated. So
Wow.
it's free content. Thank you, CIG.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly,
cool.
I find it so difficult because I find it hard enough for me, flying a ship to do a ship review, I need 2 weeks of flying the ship before I know enough about it to actually do the review justice. So, like, having a huge back catalog of old ships that I need to revisit,
Yeah.
plus then all the new stuff that comes out, it's very difficult for me.
God,
But
yeah. 'Cause
thankfully,
this
as you
year's been
said,
hell for
we're
you.
well served.
Sorry, you broke up for me. So, but this year's been hell for you, hasn't it been?
It's been no, it's not. I enjoy it. I like flying new ships. I just,
Okay.
as somebody who does this part time, it's difficult to keep up.
Yeah.
As far as the gold standard or gold pass or however you want to call it, I think, to be fair, I think CIG are starting to shy away from some of that terminology, because I think that was a point in time. And you take some ships like the Constellation. How many versions of a Constellation have we had now since it was first in the hangar module?
Four,
Five.
Yeah,
roughly.
exactly.
Yeah. 4 or 5, yeah, something like that.
It's to the point where they've literally made it lore that the current version of the Constellation is version 5, is the Mark 5.
It's crazy.
So I think probably if there is a need to retweak ships, I think they probably will need to. Some clearly need some love. Others probably just need a little bit of tinkering to bring them up to spec. But to be fair, they have been doing it. I guess what I hope to see more of is, one of the things that makes me a bit nervous is the Hornet series, where there's a Mark 1 and a Mark 2, and the Mark 2 is better than the Mark 1. And I just hope the Mark 1 doesn't get forgotten. I just hope it doesn't become a ship that just kind of gets discarded and left. If the whole Mark 1, Mark 2 is like an in-law way to refresh some of these things, great, as long as it's not an excuse to say, well, we're not maintaining that product anymore.
Yeah. And I think John Cruz said something like that. It's like they still plan on doing that. And I do think that people freaked out. A little bit of that is freak out is because the Zeus Mark II came out around the same time as the F7A Mark II. And so CIG everyone's like, CIG's doing Mark IIs. And it's like, the Zeus Mark I was never in game. It's called the Mark II because it's a lore ship. It's a lore ship that they turned into a real ship. So, I think it's just a bit of a game of telephone there. So. All right, next question comes from 89 Dig Dug, who asks, what kind of surprise are you all hoping to happen at CitizenCon Direct? Ferrister, I'll start with you.
Well, the surprise I really want, given the conversation we just had on the captain's table, may not be a surprise. I would love to see engineering, and I would love to see Nyx. Like, for me, if I see those in-game and there's something that's going to be in our hands within the next 6 to 9 months, I am leaving CitizenCon Direct a very happy person. I guess if you're asking for something a bit off the wall, I'd be interested to see maybe some progress on gameplay loops that aren't so shouted about. So I own a Misk Expanse refining ship. Given all the work that's going into salvage at the moment, given we were talking earlier about the longer term plans for crafting and base building, I would love to see something around what refining gameplay is actually going to look like. Because at the moment, all we do when we finish mining something is we take it to a refinery station, beep, boop, boop, press the buttons and give it to the refiners to do. I would hope there is some sort of a gameplay loop, like mining, like salvage, for refining. But I appreciate that's probably not. I don't know how many Expanse owners, or I think some of the mining ships have refineries built in. I think one of the Explorers does as well. But I suspect there aren't a lot of refinery gameplay people there. But for me personally, that'd be quite interesting to see another gameplay loop that links into what we have.
Especially with the with the current expansions of the salvage gameplay, where now it requires refining. So it's a good one. Griff, what's your off the wall thing you'd want to see?
Yeah, Forrester hit on one of them. One of them was after seeing the new salvaging piece come up, it definitely was refining. It was this expansion on the whole crafting thing. I would love to see something like the Expanse be a surprise. That finally, those of us who enjoy doing mining and industrial work, that closes a loop for us. So I would love to see that happen. Other than that, if it was a surprise, I would love to see a new career open up, some other career, farming, just something else that we aren't doing in the game yet. Even if it's something like smuggling or the hacking, just some gameplay thing that's a new introduction, new area of gameplay for us. Would be like a surprise that I would love to see. And then, of course, we said this in our earlier part of the show, some type of an announcement, some type of something about Squadron 42. I know they're not going to do a presentation. I know there's nothing coming up like that, but it would be cool to just see something that pops up and says SQ42 fourth quarter, something, and that's it. I'll take that. I'll just take a flash on the screen, something along that. That's about it.
Yeah, for me, if we're going crazy off the wall, it'd be Squadron release date. But if we're going for more like, I could see it happen, but I don't think it's going to happen, is probably more information about bounty hunting.
Yeah.
Because bounty hunting is just
a sleeper.
It's just completely.
Yeah, it's a sleeper. They did the modification for the Hawk, and I would love to see the MR pop out. Next year, but
yeah,
bounty hunting would be cool.
All right, next question comes from from Captain Jacaro, who asks, no, we already did that one. Don't Please, who asks, how do you feel about the specialty testing group drama? Their special testing group drama. I'll start with this one because it's really easy. I don't care at all. My issue when it comes to this whole thing is I think a lot of this is a lot of work for them to come to the discussion or to come to the realization that a lot of what the changes that people who are more dedicated to flight and to gameplay around flight than me, a lot of this is going to come down to the same thing that everyone's already been talking about, which is multi-crew ships need to be better at taking on smaller targets, and flight skills need to matter as much as your gunnery skills. Being able to maneuver and get behind targets and that kind of stuff need to matter as much as just being able to shoot things. And yeah, that's it. I'm sorry, was there drama? So basically the drama is that they're going to do these small focus groups, because they're focus groups. That's what they are. They're small focus groups about specific gameplay functions, and they did one recently for flight. And the thing was they're going to be under super NDA. So the only way you could get even feedback was to send them emails. They weren't supposed to talk about it at all, even on Spectrum or on any of the forums. And they're mostly just sort of feedback that they're going to tap specific people for. And one of the people leaked the NDA instantly that they got it. And so as a result, they burned the entire group. So the entire group is not going to be asked back. So that's it.
I think the drama was more that not just that they leaked it, but they leaked it and then the community started commenting on their thoughts, and that was undermining the whole purpose of this. Yeah. So for me, I like the idea of reaching out to people who, for want of a better term, are experts in an area. Like, you don't want to ask me about the racing flight model because I don't do racing. I can't comment about it. But the risk is if you post some changes and say we want to think about experimenting with things about racing flight model, suddenly all these armchair racers who've never raced once in their lives have a view on how that might affect their FPS combat, and therefore they want to weigh in on it. For me, I was sad to see that the NDA leaked because I can actually see a lot of value in getting some honest, constructive, but expert feedback from people that actually undertake the gameplay loops to help set the direction. And I think one of the challenges that I see making content for Star Citizen is sometimes people are pushing their own agenda so hard. And we talked about this a little bit earlier on the captain's table about multi-crew and, you know, whether people should or shouldn't be able to solo everything in every scenario. And people are very strongly opinionated about it because they want what they want. They want the game to be what they want to be. I think it probably most often comes up in discussions between PvP and PvE players. And I think that's unhelpful from a testing perspective because everyone almost treats it as who can shout the loudest gets the best say on something. Whereas actually, if you want to design the best balanced game, you almost set the vision and say, how do we make this work? And then you get the detail from people rather than just implementing what is the most popular change.
Yeah. I want to say something what Forrester said too, because of something that Del Elnar said and Einar said. CIG made it clear that they're not just grabbing 100 racing people. Mm-hmm. They are grabbing people who do racing, but they are grabbing people who maybe don't do racing. And these focus groups are not just focused on that one thing because there's a dynamic of understanding there's a synchronicity to Star Citizen. Focusing, everything has this connecting to something else. And so, yeah, they may have a tremendous amount of those people who may be involved in racing or mining, but they do bring other people in outside of that. And some of that is based upon people who maybe have committed previously in the past of how they've reported information to CIG. Some of it may be based upon the hours and time and commitment that they put into the game. There's a lot of variables there. But I think that the reason why this doesn't bother me this much, Paul, and maybe I don't know how far back you go, Forrester, but I remember when Eva Cotty got implemented and this whole thing came up back then of entitlement, of how, why are they the ones that get to evaluate the game? And we all put in money and they get to play the game first. Some of it comes from that space too, that people feel left out. But I think that if people are giving good information, I don't care who it's coming from, as long as it's credible and valid and it's going to make the game better. And if it helps accelerate the process of development, I'm behind whoever it is, whether I know you or not, doesn't make a difference. So I can understand some people may be feeling a little frustrated, but I think what was bad, Forrester, you hit it on the head. I felt it was wrong for them to post that. I don't want to jump on Pipeline, but they posted it. And it just started a whole fire that was unnecessary. You know, most of us just want the thing to get done and done well. And I know there's some people who want to know every freaking detail of what happens. But CIG let us know this is what they were going to do. And my thing was, do what you got to do to make the game work good. That's all I care about at this point. The
weirdest part about that was basically everything that was leaked was stuff that was already told to us a year ago.
Yeah.
There was nothing, there was no new information. So it was leaked for the sake of being leaked.
Yeah.
So,
but it's just what I'm saying. It just started a fire that wasn't even necessary to start.
Yeah.
You know.
And I don't necessarily hold Pipeline responsible for that. I think if they get credible leaks, that is their role is to share that stuff. I don't think I hold them to a high moral standard. But whoever signed the NDA is undermining the whole purpose of why they're trying to seek expert feedback. So for me, that was.
I think that's what my problem is. I agree with you. I'm saying that was my problem. They knew that was funky what the person did. They just should not. To me, I just feel like, hey, if somebody puts it out there, let them put it out there. You know. But maybe it's just me. I just
don't feel them cover. Yeah.
I feel bad for the devs involved because they're obviously trying something new here to get some really valuable constructive feedback to help make the game better. Like nobody at CIG is, let's do this so that we can introduce some controversial changes that nobody's going to like and it's going to ruin the game. No, the developers there want the game to be the best it can be, and they're trying to cut through the noise, speak to people about what could and couldn't work, experiment with things that they might not actually do to understand what does and doesn't work. And then it's been immediately thrown out into the open and undermined. It's disappointing.
Yeah. Right. And we're the ones that cry about them. We've been crying about it. We're the ones who've been saying the master mode sucks, blah, 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 blah. Well,
yeah.
They're trying to fix it. They're trying to wear. This isn't the first. I know I sound like an old crotchety old dude. I can't tell you how many freaking flight models I've been through in this game. This isn't the first time we've gone through this stuff with the flight model. Oh my God. And people keep saying that the flight model will continually be worked on and continually tweaked and made to be better. So
that's a completely different conversation, honestly.
I know.
Because like my whole thing about this whole thing is I feel like a lot of this is worthless. Like put all your expert panels you want, but I can't tell you what, and no one can tell Yogi if something feels right in terms of flight, at least, without all of the aspects of flight in the game. Like we're missing quantum mode. We're missing the what's it called? The Maelstrom system. We're missing engineering, and we're missing flight controls.
You're missing friggin' gravity, flight control, weather, a whole bunch of stuff that's just not in the game.
It's just not in the game. So it's hard for me to sit here and go, yeah, this feels good, because I have no idea how it's going to feel, how like a Connie will feel when master modes, or when not master modes, when engineering comes in. Because engineering
you fly spaceships every day in real life. You will know how it feels. What are you talking about? Don't you fly spaceships for real?
So like, or how quantum will work, or anything else like that. So like, it always feels like a very much like a. Why are you asking
simulation.
me this? Why are you asking me
I don't
this?
know. I kind of get that. There are a lot of moving parts and you have to work out how they all fit together. But I don't think it's something where you can just arrive on a perfect solution. I think you need to iterate and test. And for me personally, like I reflect on my flight experience. I've got hundreds of hours in Microsoft Flight Simulator, DCS World, Kerbal Space Program, right? Flying somewhat atmospheric flight models. I've kind of got a feel of what I think a Gladius should fly like. I've kind of got a feel for what I think a Raft should fly like based on that experience. And I think if CIG can find a way to tap into that kind of thing, they're not bound to say, right, whatever feedback we get from this is going to be the end state of the game forevermore. I think everybody is going to be flexible, but making some progress on those things with some meaningful, constructive feedback from the community, I think would be a good thing.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, moving on to the next question. We got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We got 5 questions left. Dig Dug asks, how many new flyable ships do you think they'll showcase at CitizenCon Direct? Then what ship at least then what ship, or at least what type of ship will it be? I will start off by saying there was a leak a while ago, or recently, I should say, about someone was able to get to find out the new website headers, and they seem to indicate 3 things, 3 ships: the Paladin, the Vanduul Stinger, and a new one called the Gray's Market
Shiv.
Yeah. So and at the time when I first saw it, it was either going to be CitizenCon or IAE, and there could be more, obviously. And since then, we've had the monthly report, which indicates there are 14 ships currently in development, and we know one of them is the Paladin, one of them is the Perseus. We know some of them are obviously not going to make it, like the Holby, the Ironclad, the Kraken, those sorts of things. But so if we're talking about how many new flyable ships, typically they do 2 to 3. I think last CitizenCon they did 2. So I wouldn't be surprised if they did the salvage starter, that released at CitizenCon, but released when 432 comes out, especially with the salvage changes, and the Perseus, because the Perseus, last we checked, is in final art or close to final art. So, yeah. What do you think, Forrester?
I'm going to go similar but slightly different. I'm going to guess there's going to be 2 flyable same weekend, which would be the Perseus and a new alien ship, and then 3 to 4 to follow shortly thereafter before the end of the year. And that's where I'd put the Paladin, the salvage starter, a variant of an already released ship, and then maybe I think the Hull B could be here sooner than we expect.
Oh yeah, I forgot about that big leak. The variant, they think they know the variant, which is called the RSI Hermes, which is a version of the
Hermes,
the Apollo that just doesn't have rip all the the stuff out and just put it in cargo. So.
Oh, my wild theory about that is that it's not going to be just cargo. I think that might be the RSI data running and cargo ship.
Ah, makes sense. Hermes.
Ooh,
So.
that'd be interesting. Yeah.
Like a competitor to the Star Runner. So.
Wild theories. What about you, Griff?
I think this is a good theory. I'm with you. I'm not going to be so specific about which ships. I mean, I know some of the names that we've talked about that people have said, but I'll say 2 for CitizenCon, and like you, I'll say 3, maybe even 4 for IAE, but definitely for the end of the year, kind of thing. But they've been dropping ships like crazy this year. I mean, their total count last year after CitizenCon was 15 ships on that block thing that they did. Mm-hmm. And I think only maybe 4 of them, 3 or 4, they haven't produced yet, something like that. So they've been churning ships out like crazy. But I'll say 2 for CitCon and 3 to 4 for the rest of the year after that IAE or whatever.
I think IAE for at least got 3. And then if IAE is 3, that means we have 1 more. So it's like 2 for 2 for October, 3 for November,
and something for December.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Which would have been 6 out of the 14 ships they were in development. So. Chetan Jacaro asks, or no, we'll skip through that. Escape asks, what if they closed CitizenCon Direct with an ad for Squadron 42? It would not technically be part of it. Yeah, we were talking about. I think that's the most you can hope for, but from my guesses, I think they're gonna try to keep those separate as much as possible, because as we think we noticed it earlier, is like Squadron 42 and Star Citizen are very different games. Yeah, they're set in the same universe, but single player versus MMO, and it's clear that linking them together could cause more complications when it comes to advertising, because they want that clean slate. So I don't know. What do you think, Griff?
Yeah, but we've talked about that for Squadron 42, that we would love to see something like that at the very end, and that be it, that we'd be satisfied with that. But that's all I'm thinking about. Nothing more than that.
Yeah, I agree with that. For me, Squadron 42 was the thing missing, and I was very surprised when Jared said we're basically not covering Squadron 42. I would want to see them address that in some way, just to say, we know we've been working on Squadron 42 this year. It's a bit weird that we're not showing it, but that's because we've got a release date in mind, or, it's just some sort of acknowledgement that they have been working on Squadron and they're not showing it consciously, and this is why.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Enexun asks, how many of the panelists agree with this proposal? If you do one of these super grindy rewards, for example, Wikelo, in alpha, the skin for that ship or item should be attributed to your account. Honestly, I just want them to work. That's all. Because like the skin's nice, but if it works, then you don't need to have it attributed to your account. It can just be there. So I don't know. Ferrister, what do you think? Should you be able to get like a permanent skin if you unlock something?
Maybe. If it's just the skin, I'm probably not bothered. I agree with you. If it's super grindy, maybe that needs considering and looking at. Some things should be super grindy, like getting a Polaris shouldn't be easy, but getting an armor set really doesn't need to be that hard. So I think I would rather see them rebalance the effort taken to get the rewards. But if not, I don't really mind. I'm okay with people getting cosmetics in their hangar as like an attributed thing for like recognizing that they've been following Star Citizen for a while. I mean, you guys have had accounts for a while. You've probably got all sorts of random stuff in your hangar like I do, that every
like
time
handlebars, stuff like that.
Yeah. So I'm okay with that as long as it's cosmetic and doesn't give like a big leg up when the game launches.
Yeah.
Griff? Oh, you already talked about that.
No, Ferrister hit it on the head. I do like the incentive of when they do things that says you were a part of this. And for people who later on, when someone says, hey, where'd you get that from? And it's like, oh, because I participated in this, or I helped test this. And I know even CIG talked about trying to create things to incentivize us to go in and test certain things, which I think is nice. But again, Ferrister hit it on the head. As long as it's cosmetic, it doesn't give anybody an edge or anything like that. Because we love cosmetics. I was amazed at how crazy folks were for getting every freaking armor for every freaking planet.
Yeah.
the last thing that we did. Folks wanted it, you know. So yeah, I agree with him.
All right, Coralite asks, at what point in the community does the community expect to learn how much a timeline/sync grind the final game is meant to be? For example, big ships, military ships, bases, stations. What do you think, Forrester? When do you think we will know the numbers for all of those?
I think we'll have a good idea probably 6 months before a 1.0 release is scheduled. In my mind, the way this goes is that they get most of the 1.0 game loops in Star Citizen Alpha or Star Citizen Beta or whatever they want to call it. And then they've got a date that says, right, this is when everything gets reset. This is when we go live. This is when Death of a Spaceman counts. This is when your insurance counts from. So people have had a chance to play most of the game. It's been thoroughly tested and thoroughly balanced. So my gut feel is, I would say probably 6 months before a release. But I think the question says final game. I don't think that Star Citizen 1.0 is going to be the final game. I think much like many other MMOs, these things will develop and change and improve over time. So I imagine that will be continuously rebalanced as things change and as new ships features are added post 1.0.
Yeah. It's also important to remember that there's a dynamic economy, at least according to CIG, they're still planning on doing that. So the dynamic economy is going to change a lot of those numbers because what takes, well, I'll say this, what takes you 50 hours to do takes less than an hour for somebody to steal from you if you have it all on one ship. And now that timeline is completely thrown off. So now they have all that equipment to do what they want to do because they took it from you. Let alone, you know, if you are starting in Terra versus starting in Stanton or where you want to go, all that kind of stuff, that's going to change some of those timelines. So I don't think there will ever be a definitive time. There'll just be a moving target that will change patch to patch, even after 1.0. Griff?
Oh, no, ditto to both of you. And I think some of it is also what is the player looking for from Star Citizen. You know, some people are looking for in-game. Some people are looking at a ship to be their in-game, right? Like when I can get the Endeavor or when I can get the Kraken. For other people, it's just being able to come into the world and play it every day. And it's, to your point, Paul, that it's reliably playable, right? And that they just get experiences every time they come in. So the development, Forrester hit it on the head. Development goes beyond 1.0. 1.0's, if I quote Chris correctly or Richard Tyrer correctly, 1.0 wants to be a commercially viable game that people can come back to reliably and play. And Forrester, you're right. Several months before that, it needs to be in that state. And, you know, once it's there, he says, when we get to 1.0, they said, that's not alpha anymore. There's no more testing. That is the game that we're playing at that point. So, yep.
All right, we got 3 more questions. Captain Shikaro asks, to reiterate, do you think CitizenCon Directs will become the regular in the future after Squadron Parts 1, 2, and 3 and 1.0 release? No, I think we've already we already answered this question in the other one. I will give the summation that I think most of us came to, which was, no, I do not believe, or none of us believe that this is going to be the final one going forward. This is sort of a stopgap because of the Squadron 42 elephant. And it's been reiterated multiple times that the developers themselves get re-energized. I used to call these like mini GDCs for these people because these folks, in some cases, are veterans of the industry that go back decades. And they've never had a chance to talk in front of people about their niche, nerdy job that involves some very specific coding or animation or you know, they don't get to talk about it other than to their colleagues and to other people who know what they do. So to stand in front of a crowd of 2,000 people and be like, this is toilet flushing, and people lose their minds because you coded a thing that flushes a toilet, that's a huge morale boost. You know, not just for you, but for everybody who's worked on that project up to that point, you know? So yeah, no, I don't think it's I think they are going to go forward with more of these if they can afford to. That's it. So. All right, we got 2 more questions. Rambo asks both of them, who asks, do you think we will see Starware anytime soon? Griff?
Yeah, we were talking about that earlier. Is it the Geist armor and some other stuff that they slowly bring in? We just don't have the functionality, but being able to scan with helmets, things of that nature, slowly starting to be brought in. Whether we'll see more at CitizenCon Direct, if that's your question, I don't know. I really don't know if that's going to be the time for them to do that unless they're giving an update. But because they're slowly bringing it in, I don't know if they would dedicate time to focus in on that, because they did a great presentation on it last year. At this point, it's a matter of putting it in the game. I don't think there's anything new to tell about it. But unless it's tied into things like what Paul was saying earlier, Paul, you're talking about like scanning and things like that being brought in, or the new inventory system. If they decide to expand it into the fact that now those pouches and clothing that we wear will be expanded into the new inventory system, then maybe, yes. But outside of that, unless it's tied to the inventory thing, I'm not sure there'll be anything about Starware.
Forrester?
Yeah, I think it's a very broad question. That was a fairly lengthy panel about Starware, and there are lots of different facets to it. I think, to Griff's point, some of the models we've started to see in game, if the question is about some of the like mixing of armor types and things like that, well, I guess when it's technically feasible, or if the question's more about like the specializations of armor types, again, you'd need to have a reason for that to exist beyond simply just movement speed and health. So I think it's one that they will drip feed in. I don't think it will be a patch just saying, this is the Starware patch where we introduce everything all at once. I think it makes sense to sit along other gameplay elements. But I think of everything they've shown, it's probably, if they've got the resource behind it, it's probably not the most technically difficult, although it's probably not easy. So as and when it makes sense, I guess.
All right. I'm just going to say both of you said basically everything I would say anyway. So the last question is from Rainbow, who asks, have you seen the ground vehicle in the recent Onyx facility expansion? Part in the cave hanging off the edge? I have not.
No for me.
I have not. Now I want to see it.
Yeah. So they did in the latest update. They did add an expansion to a cave for ASD. So they're not done with ASD facilities. They're going to add an additional event, and it's the Yormondi is going to be part of that. The new like worm, and I mean worm as in WYRM looking creature. So,
I was going to say snake.
Yeah, it's got kind of like dragon head though, so it's sort of flattish. But there's 2 new locations. There's also a red door that's locked. So there you go. If you just learned that at the end of this Captain's Table, you learned that. So maybe you, by the time this actually is released, it'll probably be already known what that is. But thank you so much for hanging out with us. Thank you for watching. Go check out Forrester on Forrester's YouTube. Check out Soul Citizens, where you can find Griff. And of course, you can check out Solus, who was our guest earlier, at Beyond the Verse podcast, where I will be there on Thursday. And you can find Solus and myself at CitizenCon Direct's watch party in Austin next Saturday. So I will not be here for a Captain's Table next Saturday because it is CitizenCon. But we will be I'll do a recap and all that sort of stuff the other time. But I also want to let you know, let all of y'all know, it is October. Every October, the Captain's Table does a 24-hour live stream for charity. This year it'll be the same as last year. It'll be for Gamers Outreach. I'm sure I'll be able to grab Forrester and Griffin to come on for at least 1 or 2 sessions to talk a little bit. It's usually a review of the entire year about everything that's been going on. So if you're able to make that will be, let me double check the date itself. That will be on October 25th. It will start at 7 a.m. Eastern time. So it'll be like 4 a.m. Pacific, so like kind of afternoonish UK time. So you'll have a chance to watch that whole thing. It will not be recorded. It will be left up, but the problem of how YouTube does 24-hour like streams and stuff like that, it actually just straight up does not post them. So this will be a one and done. It will not be available after the fact because of how YouTube runs. So you'll have to, and I won't be recording it, so you'll have to be here for that. Make sure you check that out. And yeah, thank you for watching. If you did enjoy this, hit that follow button here on Twitch, subscribe on YouTube, and if you're watching this after the fact, like the video and comment down below your thoughts on anything we've talked about here. And like I say every time, hope to see you someday in the black.